Hello and welcome to another edition of SQL Dan. It's Friday, May 24th, and tonight we're taking a look at another question that came into the Snowflake Forums. This question was posted yesterday, and it comes from Shiva Jayaraman, and he has a question about iterating through rows and start from the beginning. And he basically has a data set that has 12 months in it and has some numbers, and he'd like to be able to start at a particular month and say how many months forward he would like to move, and when he gets to after the 12th month, have it loop back around back to the first month. So as I'm displaying here, this is the data set that he has, and in the example that he provided in the question, he wants to start on month 9 and then what he called iterate forward 8 months. So do month number 9, month number 10, month number 11, month number 12, and then circle back to month number 1, and then 2, 3, 4, like that. Or as a second example, perhaps if you start on month 11 and you go 4, there's 11 and 12, and then we'd still have 2 months to go. So we circle back to the beginning and we get 2 more months. Now the tricky part could be, and we got to remember to code this in as well, is there could be possibilities where we would iterate forward some number of months, but never have to circle back. So we'll have to make sure that that's a part of our solution as well. So again, there's this question, and I've taken the data that he provided, and I've created a temporary table in my Snowflake environment here. And so we can see these are the values that he provided, and I just created a table called month val. And if I do a select from that really quick, we can see that there are 12 records, and there's all the values. All right, so how are we going to attack this problem? The way that I decided to do it was just to take the actual situation that he provided and attempt to code that first, and then we'll see if there's any nuances or enhancements that we want to do after that. Okay, so again, he said let's start with the 9th month, and then let's go forward 8 months. So I have those values hard-coded in here, and you see I'm selecting from month and val from the month val table, and I'm just simply saying in my where clause, wherever month is greater than or equal to 9. We'll come back to the second part of that in just a second here. But let's go ahead and run the query. Okay, and we can see that we did pick up the first 4 that he asked for, months that are greater than or equal to 9. Coming back over to the example here, we picked up each of these 4 right here. But again, we wanted to go 8 months, so at this point, we need to find a way now to circle back, kind of like when you were learning addition and subtraction in 2nd and 3rd grade, and you had to learn to carry the 1. So we have to be able to go back here and get these other months now that we still need 4 more of. So if we come back to the OR part of my statement, you can see I have OR month plus 12, so that's the carry the 1 when we're dealing with 12 months instead of a decimal system, right? And so I'm saying OR month plus 12 is less than 9 plus 8. And again, this 9 plus 8 isn't anything particularly special. These are just the requirements that he had in, the starting month and then the number of months we wanted to go. So in this case here, we've selected 4 additional months, month 1, because 1 plus 12 is less than 17, and month 2, and month 3, and month 4, because 4 plus 12 is still less than 17, 4 plus 12 is 16, but we did not select month 5 because it's not less than 17. So that's how we were able to get it to circle back, was simply by doing the carry the 1 strategy, or add 12, and say, okay, give me all of them that are greater than my starting point, or all of them going back to the beginning that would be less than my ending point after I add 12 to it. And so it actually is as simple as that. There is going to be one more nuance that we'll get to in a second, and that has to do with this situation over here, which is not yet handled. But before I do that, I'd like to show you how I took these hard-coded values in this query and now turned it into a query instead that's parameterized, which allows us to try lots of different values. So I wrote a CTE, and the CTE says with params, and I just say select 9 as my starter and 8 as my as in consecutive months, right? And then I use those down in the query here. So instead of putting month is greater than equal to 9, I can put month is greater than equal to starter. And instead of putting 9 plus 8 right here, I can put starter plus consec. So this allows me to run this query and change these values right here in one spot and have the query results changed as well. But let's first of all do it the way that it was asked in the question. Oops, that's not what was asked. That's getting ahead of myself here. This is what was asked. Okay, and so we see we still have these 8 months right here, exactly as was required. And then I had provided another example here of starting with month 11 and going ahead by 4 months. So let's just test that as well to see if it still holds up. And we can see that it selected the 2 months at the end of the year. And then it circled back and got the 2 months at the beginning of the year so that we have all 4 months. All right, now let's take a look at this one here that does not loop around. This start with month 4 and only go 6 months ahead. So let's go back to my parameters here, and we'll start with month 4. And when I go 6 months ahead in this particular case, we can see it is starting with month 4, so that looks good. That's what I wanted it to do here. But as I get down the line, it doesn't stop after 6. It also picks up 10, 11, and 12. And I really shouldn't have picked those up because I really only wanted 6 months beginning with number 4. So the problem that I have here is that I didn't specify any top end on the month. And what I needed to do was also include this. Okay, and so now it says where month is greater than or equal to starter and month is less than starter plus consecutive. So remember, starter plus consecutive in this particular example was only 10. Okay, and so this would prevent months 10, 11, and 12 from getting selected. And what did I do here? Oh, I wiped out somehow or another. Wiped it out on my order by here. There we go. Okay, and so now I'm getting what I wanted. I'm getting just these 6 months here, and no looping around. And let's make sure that what I added on didn't ruin the work that we had before. So let's go back and put the initial values in here, the 9 and the 8. And we still are picking up the 8 records. So I believe that that's the solution, and that works. There is, however, one more thing I'd like to call out before I close the video, and it has to do with a best practice anytime you're coding in SQL. And anytime that you have ands and ors both inside of the where clause, you should always include parentheses to be very explicit about the order that you'd like for these to be executed. Because it does make a difference whether you do the ands or the ors first. Now, in this particular case in Snowflake, the ors take precedence over the ands, which means the ands come first, and then the ors come afterwards. The ors are larger reaching, I guess is the way to say it. Um, and so the way that I have it written is actually what Snowflake will already do, even though I don't have any parentheses, right? It's going to do this AND logic before it does the OR logic. But again, just so you don't get burned and just so you don't get surprised, you should always make it a habit to include parentheses on the things that you'd like to have happen first anytime that you combine ANDs and ORs. Uh, if nothing else, it shows the people behind you that you thought about it, and it also eliminates confusion if there's someone who comes behind after you to work on your query. They can tell exactly, that it's doing exactly what you intended it to do. So I've added these parentheses here. Again, it didn't change it. It just makes it more explicit. So that's the solution to the problem right there. We could cut it off right here. But I do want to call out one more thing, which is that when he said that he'd like for it to loop through and iterate and do all that kind of stuff, and then his last part of the sentence said, and return the total value. So as I read that, I actually don't think he wants us to return all of these records. I believe that all he really wants us to do is return the sum of the val field for all of those records. So this is probably the solution that he's looking for right here. And again, the where clause, we've already tested and we know which records it's going to pick up. So it's just going to sum the values for any of those that, happen to be picked up by the where clause, and then it would return one value instead of 8 rows. And there we go. In this particular case that he asked for, the answer is 0.611649. So that's the solution. This thing only works, however, within a limitation of a consecutive value of 12. If it happens to be that we need to go more than 12 months beyond the starter value, then this query will not work, but it will work for any value between 1 and 12 for the consecutive months. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope I've made sense in what I'm doing. If you liked it, I hope that you'll give it a like, and I hope that you'll watch this channel and come back and watch future videos that I post. In fact, why don't you go ahead and give it a subscribe, and then anytime I do post a new video, you'll know about it, and you can come and check out that one as well. I really do appreciate your support. And any feedback, please leave it for me in the comments. Have a fantastic evening. This is SQL Dan, signing out.